This review contains extremely mild spoilers, and it's all for stuff that's either A, got no impact or relevance to the story, B, you will figure out on your own anyway, or C, was already given away in the trailers. So, let's do this. I went to see Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice on Easter, and while I liked it significantly more than the critics, I still can't muster the will to call the movie anything more than okay. I liked parts of it and was able to tolerate the rest of it, but the movie has colossal problems with its script, pacing, and one glaring casting error. I don't know if it was a guilty pleasure for me, or if there's enough intrigue in a first-time viewing to carry me through. All I know is that I kind of enjoyed it, but not by much, and looking back I'm having trouble thinking of all the reasons why. I am on the record as having hated Man of Steel, but I don't hate it for the reasons that most people hate it. I couldn't care less that the portrayal of Superman was seemingly more violent, the darker tone, or the massive death toll that's largely Superman's fault. Those are all footnotes. I just thought that it was an exceedingly poorly made movie. The first half hour was entertaining, the hour that followed was solid, dull exposition as they talk plot points at the audience, and the hour after that was 3 back-to-back overly long, monotonous fight scenes that bored me out of my mind. This, of course, setting aside the plot holes that you can drive a Star Destroyer through, such as why the Kryptonians decided to stay put on a planet they knew would explode despite being able to colonize other planets. Dawn of Justice is pretty much the same story. Not much of anything happens until the end, when everything happens. The improvements here are that the action scenes are much better and there's intrigue to sustain the movie through the solid talky bits. The basic story is that Batman lost a ton of friends and employees when Superman caved in a Wayne Enterprises building at the end of Man of Steel, and he wants to kill Superman because he believes that he can't be trusted to live among humans. The next, I'm going to ballpark it at an hour and 40 minutes, follows 4 separate plot threads. Somebody orchestrates terrorist attacks in places Superman has been to try and frame him, which prompts Superman to contemplate his place in the world and Lois to investigate who's behind the attacks. Batman investigates and breaks up a smuggling and trafficking ring, which ends up being a means to steal some kryptonite. And Lex Luthor, I don't even know, he bounces around the movie doing random shit to further the plot. Shortly before the 2-hour mark, Lex blackmails Superman into fighting Batman to the death, hoping Superman will either die or be exposed as an asshole by killing a superhero in public. But Batman discovers Superman is human after all in a scene so gloriously stupid, you just have to see it for yourself to believe it. They become friends and team up to fight Doomsday, who Lex created out of the corpse of General Zod. And Wonder Woman shows up. Now, the fundamental problems with the plot are obvious. There's so little overlap between Batman, Superman, and Lex's storylines that the movie plays out like 3 separate movies that have been cut together. The subplots on their own are fairly interesting, but they don't intertwine or form a cohesive whole until the titular fight starts about 2 hours in. Batman and Superman only interact once for a few seconds in the main body of the film, and it's that scene where Superman pulls over the Batmobile that you've already seen. That's the only time they interact at all until the title fight at the end of the film. Superman does basically nothing the entire first 2 hours of the movie except contemplate his own existence, and even Batman doesn't get any action scenes aside from an admittedly awesome Batmobile chase. That action scene in the warehouse, yeah, that's not until the ending. The movie is just a metric ton of exposition and laying out plot points that range from mildly interesting to why is this here, and it's not until the last half hour or 45 minutes that the plot threads all connect and the movie finally lurches to life and becomes enjoyable. The movie's editing is a jumbled mess that's very reminiscent of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Scenes from completely different subplots are thrown together back-to-back with 0 transitions and are broken into such tiny pieces that you're hard-pressed to find a single non-action scene that lasts longer than a few minutes. The movie isn't hard to follow, but it's very jarring. The story is so poorly constructed that the big fight just kinda starts out of nowhere, like all the dominoes have been set up, so let's just get right into it. We don't even see Batman working on his battle armor or see a single piece of it one single time until the fight starts. Wonder Woman could have been cut from the movie entirely. Her only contribution to the film is joining the final fight with Doomsday. Before that, she shows up for a few seconds here and there, but doesn't do anything of any consequence to the plot. Zack Snyder has publicly stated that the film's been cut down from a 3-hour director's cut, and the film plays like it's been hacked to the bone on the cutting room floor. You almost never have an actual conversation between 2 people. The overwhelming majority of the dialogue only exists to spout plot exposition, with most of the characters getting precious little characterization. There's a brief scene where Batman laments how he has no legacy and everything he's done feels pointless, and it's such a rare moment of actually getting to know one of these characters that it's one of the high points of the movie. Meanwhile, while Superman's character arc of trying to find his place in the world never gets resolved, there's a subplot about Clark Kent investigating Batman that goes nowhere and is dropped at a moment's notice. Batman catches Luthor red-handed in a trafficking operation but never actually investigates Lex for anything, and a lot of things in the movie are never explained or explained piss poorly, like how and why Lex created Doomsday, or how Lex figured out both Batman and Superman's secret identities, or why Lex's plan to discredit or kill Superman hinges on Batman of all people fighting him, or why Lex is going to such great lengths to kill Superman in the first place. These simple plot threads are so pointlessly overcomplicated that the movie somehow has too much going on and not much going on at the same time. The source of a lot of the movie's problems is Lex Luthor, who seems to have been the victim of obvious extensive rewrites. Not only does Jesse Eisenberg play Lex like he's got severe mental disabilities, but the movie never gives a good explanation for Lex's hatred of Superman. At one point he claims he thinks Superman will be a dictator, then it's because of daddy issues, later it's because he hates God, later still it's because he knows aliens are coming. A few days after the movie came out, they released a deleted scene on YouTube which people are interpreting to mean that Lex is being controlled or commanded by one of Darkseid's minions. If that's true, Warner Brothers needs to get out of the habit of filling holes in their movies in later movies. Almost all of Marvel's films are self-contained. Take note, son! Lex's motivation is vital to the film, and not only is it nebulous at best, but they keep changing their minds about what it is. A lot of people are speculating that the Joker was supposed to be in the movie and they just gave all his bits to Lex instead, and given how Eisenberg plays the character, I totally believe that story. One minute he's calmly talking with a senator and a general about countermeasures against Superman, the next, I am not making this up, he is force-feeding the same general cherry Jolly Ranchers. Setting aside Jesse Eisenberg's hilariously misjudged performance, the rest of the cast is outstanding. Superman's supporting cast is a lot of fun after getting the shaft in Man of Steel, and Ben Affleck and Jeremy Irons are a phenomenal take on Batman and Alfred. The Batman action sequences are also really well made, probably the best in live-action Batman movies so far, and it all exposes the great flaw in Warner Brothers' race as quickly to Justice League as we can mentality. Now you've got us itching and wishing for a standalone movie to see Ben Affleck's Batman doing his own thing, and we're either not going to get it, or we're going to have to wait several years for it. While I'm on the movie's positives, the music is outstanding, par for the course with Hans Zimmer. The opening of Bruce Wayne giving a human perspective on the destruction Superman wrought from Man of Steel is genius and powerful stuff, and the three-way fight with Doomsday is really fun, even if the ending is total bullshit. The titular fight itself is loaded with emotional and dramatic weight that's well orchestrated, but the fight itself is poorly paced because Batman's tank armor is so ridiculously slow to move. The movie is also undercut by major plot holes. How in the world does Superman get blamed for killing terrorists and triggering an international incident when the terrorists in question were all killed with bullets? Why does Lex trigger said incident by sending soldiers equipped with special bullets that trace directly back to him instead of ordinary generic bullets that would lead nowhere? Why does Lex have a ridiculously convoluted plan to goad Batman into fighting Superman when Batman was already pretty dead set on doing that in the first place? One wonders what Lex was planning to do with Doomsday if he succeeded in killing Superman, leaving an unkillable, mindless beast rampaging the planet with absolutely zero means of stopping him. Wonder Woman's sword only mildly irritates Doomsday, but then cleaves his arm clean off when it's convenient for the plot. Batman has access to all of Lex's personal files, and despite already knowing he's dirty, he doesn't look into Lex's files at all to find out he's framing Superman or discover his plans for Zod. Supes himself makes almost no effort to talk Batman down or explain the situation to defuse the big fight, despite having ample opportunity to. They don't sound like big problems, but they fundamentally undermine much of the film's logic and cause a lot of pivotal scenes to come off as completely contrived. As for building up the rest of the Justice League, the movie really drops the ball here. Get this, in the middle of nowhere, Batman falls asleep and has a dream that he's in a post-apocalyptic world marked with a giant Omega symbol, battling flying demons and an evil Superman. This is the scene that all that trailer footage of Batman in the desert comes from. Batman wakes up from this dream and the Flash appears out of nowhere, warning him to keep Lois alive, only for that to also turn out to be a dream. Again, this happens out of nowhere and has absolutely zero relation to anything else in the movie. Why are we supposed to take a fever dream inside of another fever dream as serious foreshadowing? Did the Flash actually time travel to give Batman a message? If so, why did you put it inside a dream so that we don't even know if it's real or not? Batman bases his entire decision to form the Justice League off of this one dream, and it's all just stupid! I hate to be the guy who compares DC to Marvel, but compare this to how they announced Thanos. The Avengers are going to fight this big red god. You don't know who he is yet, get, but we'll explain it eventually. Non-comics fans are going to have no earthly clue what this means. I should know, I saw the movie with 3 of them, while comics fans are going to have no idea why they're teasing Darkseid in such a stupid fashion. The other Justice League members aren't so much in the movie, as Lex has a few seconds of surveillance footage of each that Batman finds. I am not kidding, they stopped the movie dead in its tracks to show teaser trailers for Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman. If that wasn't staggeringly incompetent enough, just wait until you get to the ending. I won't spoil it, but the film's ending just cements for me that Warner Brothers has no earthly clue what they're doing with this movie universe. Just like everybody thought, they really do have no plan and are just rushing to Justice League as quickly as possible with no thought to how everything fits together. Listening to this rambling mumbo-jumbo, it may not sound like I actually enjoyed this movie, and it pretty much boils down to this. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice is a heavily mixed bag, and the only way you'll find out if it works for you is to see it for yourself. For me, in spite of all the flaws, the story was interesting and emotional enough to keep me invested, and the action was pretty fun. But I'm seeing a really disturbing trend here. Man of Steel and Dawn of Justice both share the same fundamental flaws in their story, editing, and narrative structure. Wikipedia says that writer David Goyer is out, but Zack Snyder is still on tap to direct Justice League, and that scares me. Zack Snyder is an amazing action director, but the man has demonstrated time and again that he's just not suited to heavily story-driven projects like this. He knocked Watchmen out of the park, sure, but let's face it, he basically had a mile-long cheat sheet to work off of. Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman are under different creative teams, so they might still be good, but I get the feeling that this corner of the cinematic universe needs a major creative overhaul, and it needs it fast.